Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Him Korsaro, and on the show today, Israeli planes bombed at least 3 major Syrian army bases that house dozens of helicopters and jets. This as Israel continues its aerial campaign against Syria. Syrian media reports say Israeli warplanes carried out attacks across the country, including in the capital Damascus. What is Israel's plan here? We'll bring you the latest on that.
On the other side, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he would not stop the war in Gaza now. Netanyahu said that if Israel ends the war now, Hamas will return and attack again. What is the plan on that front? We delve into that as well. This and a lot more lined up for you right here on World DNA. Let's start with the headlines.
Israel conducts over 100 airstrikes on military targets in Syria. As per a war monitor, Netanyahu says Israel is using all available tools to ensure its security after the change in Syrian leadership.
Syrian rebel leader al-Jolani meets Prime Minister al-Jalali to discuss transfer of power after the fall of Assad's regime. Head of rebel-led government in northwest Syria, Mohammed al-Bashir, also attends the meet.
Amid renewed efforts towards a ceasefire with Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he will not stop the war in Gaza, reiterates to achieve the goal of Hamas's annihilation to prevent future attacks.
Man suspected of killing U.S. insurance chief Brian Thompson in New York last week arrested from Altoona in Pennsylvania. 26-year-old suspect Luigi Mangione was spotted at a McDonald's joint.
Kremlin says Russia is open to negotiations after Donald Trump calls for an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky says he is grateful for Trump's strong resolve to end the war.
European Union urges Bangladesh's interim government to prioritize rule of law and safeguard the fundamental rights of its citizens after allegations of human rights abuses targeting minority groups in the country.
West Ham United beat Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-1 in the English Premier League to ease pressure on Julian Lopetegui, and the Hammers dedicated their win to teammate Antonio, who is recovering from a car crash.
And our top focus on World DNA, Syria. Israel, well, it continues its aerial campaign against Syria, targeting weaponry that Jerusalem fears could fall into the hands of the rebels.
Those who have claimed control in Damascus after the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad. According to 2 Syrian security sources quoted by Al Arabiya television channel, Israeli planes bombed at least 3 major Syrian army air bases that house dozens of helicopters and jets. The strikes at the Kamishli Air Base in northeast Syria, Shin Shar Base in the countryside of Homs, and Akraba Airport southwest of Damascus.
A Britain-based war monitor told AFP that Israel had conducted more than 100 airstrikes on military targets in Syria on Monday. There were also at least 2 explosions in the area where an office of the Syrian Scientific Studies and Research Center (SSRC) is based. The SSRC has been sanctioned and previously struck for its links to chemical weapons production under the Assad regime. The attacks come as the Israeli army takes new position in a buffer zone between Israel and Syria in the Golan Heights, created as part of a 1974 ceasefire between the countries.
The Israeli army released footage showing what it said were Israeli paratroopers preparing and entering Syria. The caption to the video read, and I'm quoting here, "Yesterday, that is on the 8th of December, forces of the 210th Division took steps to proactively ensure the defense of Golan in the light of the internal events in Syria."
The United Nations said it was a violation of the 1974 deal. The US, which is a close ally of Israel, jumped to its rescue, saying the incursion must only be temporary. Asked if the US was calling on Israel to pull out, State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said the agreement reached after the 1973 Yom Kippur War includes Israel's withdrawing to its previous position. He, however, declined to set a timetable, pointing to the fast-changing situation on the ground in Syria. But on the contrary, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the Golan Heights, occupied by Israel for almost 60 years, would remain Israeli for eternity.
Now, after a lightning advance by the rebels in Syria, spearheaded by Hayat al-Tahrir al-Sham or HTS, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has fled to Moscow.
Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin for years has provided military support to the Assad regime, and with rebels taking over, questions are being raised about the 2 strategically important Russian facilities in Syria.
Now, reports indicate Moscow has threatened a harsh response if Russian military bases in Syria are attacked. Russia has struck a deal with Syria's rebel leaders to guarantee the safety of its bases. According to a Russian war blogger, Russia's military presence in West Asia is hanging by a thread.
Meanwhile, Moscow has said that it is too early to say what the future will hold for Russian military bases in Syria, adding that it would be the subject of discussion with the new rulers of Damascus.
Пока преждевременно об этом говорить. В любом случае, это все предмет для обсуждения с теми, кто будут у власти в Сирии. Сейчас мы видим, что...
Now, Russia's airbase in Syria's Latakia province is a naval facility on the Tartus coast, and this facility is Russia's only Mediterranean repair and replenishment hub. And Moscow has used Syria as a staging post to fly its military contractors in and out of Africa.
Earlier, Peskov confirmed that Assad had been given asylum in Russia, saying the decision was made by Russian President Vladimir Putin himself. Asked about a possible meeting between Putin and Assad, Peskov said none was currently in the official Kremlin schedule.
All right, and let's also take a look at what some of the analysts and experts are saying about what's unfolding in Syria. Listen to this.
What Israel wants most with Syria is peace. We want a peace agreement with Syria. We want to live in peace as good neighbors. Now, it's up to the people of Syria and the new government of Syria to decide what its policy will be. The people of Israel are still waiting to hear from this new government of Syria that it will keep its previous agreements with the government of Israel. But there have been cause for concern, which was that a couple days ago, armed groups in Syria launched an attack on UN peacekeepers who were in this buffer zone between Israel and Syria. And Israel responded by defending the UN peacekeepers and moving into the territory where the UN peacekeepers are in order to keep these armed groups a bit farther away from the people of Israel until we find out what's going on. But I hope we can find out what's going on, that the government of Syria will say that it wants to live in peace with Israel.
Turkey will be the most influential country that will have an influence in Syria. So the Turkish role here will especially be very important to avoid disagreements within the Syrian rebels to escalate, and that Turkey will play an important role to to convince the Syrian rebels who have taken power to be more inclusive. And Turkey will also play an important role in transforming the state institutions, helping Syria's economy, the banking sector, and the reconstruction of Syria. So Turkey has much to provide to the Syrian people, but Turkey alone will not be enough. Syria needs more. Syria needs the help of everyone. We can and probably will see a joint effort between the Arab states, Turkey, and the Europeans to help Syria to get on its own feet and to help Syria to be a prosperous and stable and secure country. And Turkey will be at the forefront of all of these efforts.
What's going to be the future of Syria? Syria itself was created as an artificial entity after the end of World War I on the ashes of the Ottoman Empire. Modern Syria was held by two strong men, the Hafiz al-Assad and his son Bashir, in the last 54 years. Both of them were called the Butcher of Damascus. How Syria is going to be organized now in the relationship between religious and secular, between the various components, the various constituents, it's a very, very big question. It will take months, if not years, to settle in a way. It's clear that it's the major collapse of the Shiite axis run by Iran, but how it's going to, what's going to replace it, how it's going to be rearranged, it's an open question.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said that he would not stop the war in Gaza now, even as renewed efforts towards a ceasefire are underway.
Speaking at a press conference in Jerusalem, Netanyahu said that if Israel ends its war now, Hamas will return, recover, rebuild and attack again.
He reiterated his goal of the annihilation of Hamas, the elimination of its military and administrative capabilities to prevent future attacks, but said that the objective was not yet complete. In recent days, there have been signs that months of failed ceasefire negotiations might be revived and achieve a breakthrough. Qatar, a main mediator, has said that there is new momentum for negotiations created by Donald Trump's election in the US. And on Sunday, the Prime Minister met with the families of hostages held in Gaza and said that Israel's wars on Hezbollah and Hamas would facilitate negotiations for their release. Netanyahu also said that Hamas' increasing isolation after the collapse of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's rule has potentially opened the door to a hostage deal, but he asserted that it is too early to say efforts would succeed.
The press conference was called ahead of his first testimony in a trial against him on corruption allegations. Netanyahu is set to take to the witness stand. His testimony is expected to start on Tuesday and last for weeks. The Israeli leader faces charges of fraud, breach of trust and accepting bribes in 3 separate affairs.
The trial began in 2020 and a verdict is not expected until at least 2026. It will be the first time an Israeli Prime Minister has taken the stand as a criminal defendant. And this is a pivotal point in the drawn-out proceedings that come as he also faces an international arrest warrant for war crimes charges. Netanyahu has repeatedly sought to delay the proceedings, citing the war in Gaza and security concerns.
As the war rages on, Yemen's Houthi group has claimed a drone attack on central Israel in a specific military operation in support of Palestinians in Gaza. The Houthis said in a statement that their forces struck a sensitive target of the Israeli enemy and said the operation achieved its objectives. Now, US authorities have arrested one person in connection with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
The 26-year-old suspect, Luigi Mangione, has been arrested from Pennsylvania following a tip-off from a fast food joint employee. Police say that the employee filed a report after observing Luigi's suspicious behavior. New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch confirmed Mangione's arrest, describing him as a person of interest in the case. She added that he was found in possession of an unregistered firearm described by authorities as a ghost gun capable of firing 9mm rounds and fitted with suppressor and bores which resemble the murder weapon, now, along with fake identification documents.
Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset.
Investigators have revealed that Mangione, a software engineer from Baltimore, was also in possession of a handwritten manifesto expressing grievances against corporate America, particularly targeting the insurance industry. Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenny noted that this evidence pointed to a strong motive for the attack, though formal charges for the murder have not yet been filed.
As the commissioner stated earlier, a male was taken into custody today in Altoona, Pennsylvania this morning. He has been identified as Luigi Nicholas Mangione. He's a male, 26 years old. He was born and raised in Maryland. We know he has ties to San Francisco, California, and his last known address was Honolulu, Hawaii. He has no prior arrest history in New York. Members of the NYPD Detective Bureau are currently traveling to Pennsylvania with members of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to interview this subject.
The detectives are currently traveling to Altoona to question Mangione and examine the evidence further. Authorities are also trying to find out if Mangione acted alone or as a part of a group.
Brian Thompson was shot in New York City's Midtown district. Surveillance footage captured the moment the gunman approached Thompson from behind and fired. The 56-year-old executive who was attending an investors' conference was pronounced dead at the scene. Now for more on this, the correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen to this.
Police have arrested 26-year-old Luigi Mangione in connection with the killing of the United Health CEO Brian Thompson in Pennsylvania. He had multiple fake IDs with him, a gun with a suppressor. The gun was possibly made with a 3D printer. And he also had documents condemning the healthcare industries. Authorities believe that he created that gun, the ghost gun firearm, and made it out of untraceable parts. His online activities showed that he had frustration regarding modern-day society and a fixation on political ideas. The police found his backpack in New York's Central Park, along with Monopoly money and a jacket. The incident has shocked many, notably his former classmates at the private Baltimore school that he graduated from. He now faces extradition to New York to face charges as this investigation continues. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION. This one.
Now, the U.S. Space Force has activated a new unit in Japan to strengthen the U.S.-Japan alliance and to counter threats from China, Russia and North Korea.
The new unit is based at Yokota Air Base and will focus on enhancing space security and coordinating space operations with Japanese forces. Now, this is a significant step following commitments made at the July 2024 Security Consultative Committee to strengthen defense cooperation across multiple domains. The move comes as space becomes increasingly central to modern warfare.
With Russia, China and North Korea deepening their collaboration, North Korea's recent space activity, including a successful spy satellite launch, raises concerns about the growing military space threat in the region.
Now, Japan views this space cooperation as a major threat to regional stability, particularly with Russia's defense ties to North Korea. Japan is bolstering its military space capabilities and working closer with the US to secure the region's space infrastructure. However, Japan faces challenges in fully integrating its military space operations due to its historical focus on civilian missions and regulatory barriers. The US-Japan Space Alliance is now a pivotal part of the strategy to protect critical space assets, map orbital activities and defend against new and evolving space threats. In a milestone for bilateral cooperation between the Philippines and China, the authorities in Philippines have deported a group of 190 Chinese nationals linked to offshore gambling.
And this comes at a time of heightened geopolitical tensions between both the nations. According to the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission in Manila, the deporters were caught in raids on the Philippines shore. Offshore gambling operators, also known as POGOs. Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. had earlier issued an executive order banning POGOs and mandating an end to their operations by the 31st of December.
As the deadline approached, tens of thousands of POGOs workers, many of whom are Chinese citizens, were told earlier in the year to cancel their visas or have them revoked. As of early November, 21,757 foreign nationals associated with POGOs had voluntarily switched their work visas to temporary visitor visas. Now, the Chinese embassy in Manila on its website said in September, the law enforcement authorities from both the countries repatriated nearly 100 Chinese citizens involved in offshore gambling.
Now, Beijing's formal compliment to Manila in July and cooperation in closing POGOs go counter to tensions between the two nations over maritime sovereignty disputes in the South China Sea, which includes combined naval patrols between the US and the Philippines.
Earlier this year, the Chinese embassy stated that closing POGOs is in the best interests of citizens of both nations. Beijing wants to stop its citizens from participating in offshore gambling, which is prohibited under Chinese law. According to Manila, Filipinos who are enlisted by these groups may commit other crimes downstream of gaming.
All right, let's now shift our focus to Britain. It has been touted one of the most socially polarized countries in the world.
Well, that's according to a report by the UK's Counter-Extremism Commissioner. And this divide between left and right in the UK is said to be only second to the United States. And experts say this factor is a decline in democratic resilience was increasingly creating fertile ground for extremists to exploit.
Public attitudes cited by the report were based on a range of opinion polls. According to key findings in the report, while 45% of the respondents distrust the UK government to put the nation's interests first, regardless of the party in power, only 41% of the people trusted their neighbours, 44% respondents believed Muslims have completely different values, and 73% of those aged 16 to 24 had encountered extremist content online. According to the study, 8 in 10 British Jews felt less safe in Britain than before the October 7th Hamas attacks.
43% people described Britain as declining, while a further 25% said it was weak. Zeroing in on anti-Muslim prejudice in the UK, a 2023 think tank report says while progress has been made on anti-Muslim racism over the last few decades, in all cases, the extent of anti-Muslim sentiment is stark. It says most Britons do not hold anti-Muslim views, but a third, that is 30%, strongly believe in at least one Muslim stereotype, and a fifth, that is 21%, say they hold a negative view of Muslims. A rise in anti-Muslim and anti-Semitic hate was among the top concerns the public had about what the war in Gaza means in the UK. Around a half of the public were concerned that these would get worse if the conflict continued.
Dame Sara Khan, the former counter-extremism commissioner who stood down in May, has proposed establishing a new unit within the Cabinet Office to oversee a strategy to tackle non-terror threats exposed by extremism. A seasoned advisor to both the Labour and the Tory administration, Dame Sara Khan has emphasised the need for a comprehensive approach to address the spread of extremist ideologies. The strategy would focus on building cohesive communities, addressing local grievances and improving democratic engagement. Her intervention comes as the Home Office is carrying out an internal review of identifying gaps and flaws in counter-extremism, with the new strategy due to be unveiled next year.
صباح الخور ضياء أحمد.
And with that, we're calling it a wrap. But here's also a look at all the stories, climate stories, which are making headlines across the globe.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The time is now. Your vote is your voice.
Ghana ushers in a new chapter of its democratic history with the election of NDC's Professor Nana Jane Opuko Agyemang as the country's first female vice president-elect. She will serve alongside returning President John Dramani Mahama. Tensions flare as police and protesters clash in the Mozambican capital Maputo, with demonstrators saying the clashes have turned deadly amid use of live bullets by security forces. And in South Africa, a sanctuary for rescued farm animals in the Western Cape unveils their star artistic marvel, Banksy, the sheep. That's this week on World of Africa, at these times on WION, World is One.
WION brings you a special business talk show where we bring forth the stories of business leaders.
From breakthrough technologies to visionary leadership, we will unlock the trends, the tactics, and dive into the minds of the industry's most influential leaders.
WION brings you this special series to uncover what drives them in a candid talk show, WION Business Masters.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION, World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with him, and I'm Shivan. Lots to discuss on this side of the show as well. Let's start with headlines.
Israel conducts over 100 airstrikes on military targets in Syria. Netanyahu says Israel is using all available tools to ensure its security after change in the Syrian leadership.
Syrian rebel leader Al-Julani meets Prime Minister Al-Jalali to discuss the transfer of power after the fall of the Assad regime. Head of rebel-led government in northwest Syria, Mohammed al-Bashir, also attends the meeting.
Amid renewed efforts towards a ceasefire with Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he will not stop the war in Gaza, reiterates to achieve the goal of Hamas's annihilation to prevent future attacks.
The man suspected of killing U.S. insurance chief Brian Thompson in New York last week has been arrested from Altoona in Pennsylvania. 26-year-old suspect Luigi Mangione was spotted at a McDonald's joint.
Kremlin says Russia has opened negotiations after Donald Trump calls for an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky says he is grateful for Trump's strong resolve to end the war.
European Union urges Bangladesh's interim government to prioritize the rule of law and safeguard the fundamental rights of its citizens after allegations of human rights abuses targeting minority groups in the country.
West Ham United beat Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-1 in the English Premier League to ease pressure on Julian. The Hammers dedicate their win to teammate Antonio, who is recovering from a car crash. Shifting focus for now, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri is on a crucial visit to Dhaka.
Well, this is the first high-level trip from India since Sheikh Hasina was ousted from power back in August, with relations between India and Bangladesh strained over recent attacks on minorities in Bangladesh, which includes the Hindus. The visit holds immense significance.
Now, in a meeting with his Bangladeshi counterpart, Vikram Misri stressed the importance of safeguarding minorities and preventing attacks on religious and cultural sites. He also described the discussions as candid and constructive, allowing both sides to take stock of the relationship and to identify paths forward.
I emphasized that India desires a positive, constructive and mutually beneficial relationship with Bangladesh. We have always seen in the past, and we continue to see in the future, this relationship as a people-centric and people-oriented relationship, one that has the benefit of all the people as its central motivational force.
Hasina, a close ally of New Delhi, now lives in exile in India, while Dhaka seeks her extradition. Her removal has sparked a dramatic shift in relations between the two neighbors. Protests against India have also intensified in Bangladesh as anti-India sentiment grows following incidents involving diplomats and religious leaders. Dhaka has accused New Delhi of exaggerating the incidents for political purposes. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reaffirmed India's commitment to working with Bangladesh for peace and security. But will this diplomatic outreach be enough to repair the strained relations? India's naval strength has got a major boost with the commissioning of INS Tushil in Russia.
Now, this stealth missile frigate joins the Navy's Western Fleet, enhancing India's maritime defense. Named Tushil, the Protector Shield, it symbolizes fearlessness and resolve. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh called it a landmark in India-Russia defense ties. Take a look.
A new milestone in India's naval power. The Indian Navy's latest advanced stealth frigate, INS Tushil, part of the Krivak 3 class, has officially been commissioned in Russia. Built with cutting-edge technologies, INS Tushil, meaning Protector Shield, is aimed at enhancing India's ability to defend its maritime borders with power and precision. INS Tushil's crest features an impenetrable shield, symbolizing its strength as a defensive powerhouse. The multi-role stealth-guided missile frigate is designed to remain undetectable by enemy radars while delivering a lethal punch. It is engineered for exceptional stability, ensuring reliable operations even in rough seas. It can reach speeds of over 30 knots, allowing for swift maneuvers. The frigate is a blend of Russian design and Indian innovation, incorporating 26% indigenous content with significant inputs from BrahMos and Bell. INS Tushil joins Western Naval Command, ready to secure the Indian Ocean region. Its motto, fearless, indomitable, resolute, embodies the frigate's commitment to defending India's maritime interests. This commissioning also marks a significant step in the deepening India-Russia defense partnership, with Defense Minister Rajnath Singh meeting President Vladimir Putin in Russia to co-chair a military cooperation meeting. INS Tushil is now ready to play a crucial role in the Indian Navy's strategic defense operations. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Syria is facing a critical moment in its ongoing conflict. The shift in power is creating new challenges for the country.
They're already grappling with years of destruction and instability. The impact on Syria's economy is profound as decades of conflict have decimated infrastructure and key industries struggle to survive. Syria's economy remains heavily dependent on its main source of income, including oil, agriculture, and increasingly the production of trafficking of crackdown, a powerful amphetamine.
Oil has historically been Syria's main source of income, contributing heavily to government revenues. However, years of conflict have devastated the country's oil infrastructure, with large portions of oil fields either destroyed or under the control of opposing factions. Agriculture, once another key pillar of Syria's economy, has also suffered, with crop production, especially wheat and cotton, deeply impacted by the war. However, a more unconventional source of income has emerged in recent years. That's crackdown, a highly addictive drug produced and trafficked through Syria. The drug trade, particularly in West Asia, has grown in scale, providing substantial funds to both the government and various militant groups.
Now, the path to Syria's economic recovery is long and fraught with challenges. The country's GDP has contracted by over 60%, while inflation has surged to 200%, putting everyday necessities out of reach for many Syrians. The road ahead requires substantial foreign investment and international aid to rebuild critical infrastructure and stabilize the economy. However, the combination of political instability, ongoing military conflicts, and sanctions leaves the future of Syria's economic recovery uncertain and difficult to predict. Now, Donald Trump's victory has prompted speculation that he may try to curtail the Federal Reserve's autonomy.
Well, this is due to his tumultuous past with Fed Chair Jerome Powell on interest rate moves. Take a look at this next report as we dive into what a president can and cannot do to the Fed.
Trump has sent mixed messages on what he wants to do with the Federal Reserve. While he maintained the president should not have the authority to direct the Fed, he did indicate the president should have a say on interest rate policy. Although Trump had considered removing Fed Chair Jerome Powell from his position, in 2018, he ultimately decided to let him finish out his term. But Trump had said he would not reappoint him. On November 7th, Powell said he would not step down even if Trump asks him to. Appointing new members to the Fed board is the president's primary means of exerting direct influence on the central bank. A Fed chair serves 4-year terms, whereas governors serve 14-year terms. Usually, U.S. presidents tend to reappoint their predecessor's Fed chair. However, Trump is the exception in recent decades. In 2026, Trump will have the chance to appoint a new head of the Fed when Powell's tenure as chair ends. Trump will have one more opportunity to choose a Fed board member in 2028 when Powell's 14-year tenure as governor concludes. After Adriana Kugler's tenure as Fed governor ends in January 2026, there will be another chance. However, those roles only account for a fraction of the Fed. The presidents of the 12 regional Fed banks and 7 governors make up the Fed's 19 policymakers. It is the Fed directors that chose the 12 regional presidents. Also, the Senate must confirm the president's nominees for Fed governor, chair, and vice chair posts. And this is to make sure of checks and balances. The Republican Party, which Trump led in 2017 to 2021, also controlled the Senate, similar to the latest election results on November 5th. However, several of Trump's Fed appointees were blocked by senators back during his first term. For a president, removing the Fed chair is a direct method of sending a message. The Federal Reserve Act states in Section 10 that chair and other members are subject to being removed for cause by the president. The term cause has always been understood by legal experts to refer to misconduct or misuse of authority. Since the law is not clear on cause, the question of whether a president can fire the Fed chair becomes tricky. During his campaign, Trump hinted that he would try to sway the Fed's policymaking process. The difficult legal process of extreme decisions makes the president's sway on the independent Fed a little tricky. This is Bureau Report. WION World is One.
And Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, will be stepping down as co-chair of the Republican National Convention.
The 42-year-old announced her decision on X, citing that her job as co-chair was complete and that she will formally step down at the next RNC meeting. Lara, who assumed the role only in March this year, has been viewed by many as a key player in not just ensuring her father-in-law's return to power, but also turning the US Congress completely red. Republicans had flipped the Senate in their favor and kept their majority in the House of Representatives.
Now it seems that there is a bigger political role in the pipeline for Lara Trump. As per reports, Trump's daughter-in-law might become Florida's senator. The incumbent leader, Marco Rubio, has been picked as the next Secretary of State in Trump's upcoming term, and Lara Trump's name has been doing the rounds.
The Musks have welcomed the possibility of the outgoing RNC co-chair becoming a senator. Elon Musk's mother, May Musk, tweeted her support to Lara Trump. Her son, a billionaire business tycoon and Trump's trusted ally, backed the call for Lara to take over. Now, should Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis make her appointment official, Lara Trump will serve as the senator for the remaining term till 2026. All right, next up, let's quickly take a look at what's happening in technology. US-based supply chain software giant Blue Yonder has announced that they are investigating claims of data theft after a ransomware gang threatened to publish company's leaked data. DHL, Starbucks and Walgreens are some of the companies using Blue Yonder's management software. Blue Yonder was hit by a cyber attack on the 21st of November. A ransomware group called Termite has claimed responsibility for the attack. Termite claims to have stolen 680 gigabytes of data from Blue Yonder, including documents, reports, insurance documents and email lists, which the group says it intends to use for future attacks. Security experts believe Termite is a rebranding of the notorious Russia-linked Babuk ransomware group. According to the US Department of Justice, this ransomware group carried out more than 65 attacks and received around $13 million in ransom payments.
After 5 years of painstaking restoration, the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris finally reopened its doors to the world on the 7th of December, with people flocking to Paris to catch a glimpse of the newly restored church. A customized double-decker bus celebrating Notre Dame Cathedral's reopening has hit the streets of Shanghai in China. What's so special about this bus? As soon as visitors step into the bus and put on VR glasses, they are transported on a 45-minute journey through the storied past of Notre Dame. Shanghai residents can experience the Eternal Notre Dame VR exhibition until the 28th of February 2025.
As per reports, American TikTok content creators are requesting their followers to subscribe to their channels on rival platforms like Meta-owned Instagram and Alphabet's YouTube. The request for follow comes after a federal appeal court ruled that TikTok could be banned if it is not sold to a US-based company by the 19th of January. TikTok's short, often quirky videos have led to the platform's immense popularity in the US, attracting over 170 million users, particularly the younger demographic. Now, this surge in popularity has drawn advertisers away from established platforms. Its new commerce platform, TikTok Shop, has become a marketplace for small businesses, and this week ByteDance revealed that its TikTok Shop platform saw sales of nearly $100 million during the Black Friday sale.
And here's a look at what's making news in the world of sports. There was no Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo in the FIFPro Men's World 11 for 2024. This marks the end of Messi's 17th straight appearance in the Team of the Year. The team is voted by professional footballers from around the globe. Messi and Ronaldo were the only players not playing in Europe to make the cut.